and welcome to the More Knits podcast. This is a video podcast mostly about knitting. My name is Abby. I am a student living and working and knitting and going to school in the northwest of the United States. This is episode 7. Welcome. It is a Sunday evening. I was gonna say afternoon, but it's definitely evening now. And yeah, I had a really nice, productive weekend. It was one of those weekends where you got a lot of stuff done and it was very productive, but it was not the things that you wanted to be doing, which last weekend was very relaxing and I did mostly what I wanted to do, and so I think you have to balance that out. But yeah, it was nice and productive, and I did get a little bit of knitting in, so stay tuned and I will share that. I do have a couple of projects that I have not really worked on since the last time I talked to you, and so I'm just not even going to show those because it would just get really boring if I showed you the same amount of progress that I showed you last week. But I am working on everything still. It's just I have a lot on the needles right now, and it's kind of overwhelming. I don't normally have this many things on the needles, and I am a pretty monogamous knitter naturally, and so I've kind of been choosing certain projects and really just been focusing on knitting those, which means that my other projects don't get very much done on them, but that is okay with me. If you are interested in following me on social media, you can find me on Instagram as more.knits, and you can find me on Ravelry as Abby Moreland. All of those things will be linked down below, and we also have a Ravelry group. I think it's called More Knits Podcast. Eventually I will get much better at this, I promise. But you can follow, or you can join the Ravelry group, and there you can find show notes and a couple different threads that have information that might be relevant if you watch the podcast. So please join the Ravelry group if you would like to. And I also hold my test knits, or I conduct my test knits in that group. And so if you're ever interested in test knitting for me, that's where you can find all the information and where you can join the test knit and stuff like that. So anyway, if you're interested in any of that, linked down below. My hair is really bothering me. I'm getting it done Tuesday, so hopefully in future podcasts I won't constantly be touching it. Every time I watch back an episode when I'm editing, I'm just annoyed with how much I constantly touch my hair and move all around. And you can definitely tell that I'm a knitter because I don't like to sit still. I have to be working on something as I'm sitting. Okay, so let's get in with finished objects. I have one finished object for you today, and this is a sock finished object. I was gonna say sock hoe, half object. This has been a sock hoe for a very long time, but it has graduated and now it is a finished object. Yay! I'm so excited that these are off the needles because it means my sock needles, my Chagu needles, my favorite sock needles, are free finally, and yeah, and they're just done. It's just nice. It feels very relieving to just have a pair of socks finished, or really any project just finished, especially if it's been languishing for a bit and you're you just have to put in a couple hours to finish it out, but you just keep not doing it because it's not that fun to just I don't know, sit down and finish a project, but it does feel really good and rewarding afterwards. Yeah, my hair's just gonna bother me until until I get it fixed, so sorry. But yeah, finished object. You have seen these multiple times. These were the sample to my latest, or one of my latest knitwear designs. This is a sock pattern that I designed myself. It's very simple, but after I basically knit these, I got up until the toe almost for the second one. I realized that I want to use a different heel for the actual pattern, and so these are no longer the sample. So that's kind of why I didn't finish them. It was like, you know, obviously I can't wear them. It's really hot outside right now. And so I wasn't super motivated to finish them because I wasn't going to be able to use them in the sample anyway, and I can't wear them. So they just kind of stayed on my needles for a while. But I finished them. They're all done. There are 2 of them. And yeah, they're really, it's really nice to have them done. I'm really excited to wear these. I love this green tweed. It's so pretty, and I really do like the texture on these a lot. So I'm definitely excited about these. I knit this in a Knit Picks Stroll tweed, I believe, and I think the colorway is called Forest Heather or Forest Tweed, something like that. It's a really pretty colorway. I'm not a huge fan of the Knit Picks Stroll yarn. I don't know. It doesn't bother me too much. I just don't know that I'll be like purchasing a lot of it in the future. But it is really affordable, so you can't really beat that too much. So that is what I finished in the past 2 weeks since I have talked to you. And now I just have whips and actually one future project that I'll talk about at the end as well. I'm drinking coffee as per usual. Occasionally, I do love tea as well, but lately I've just been drinking like 2 or 3 cups of coffee a day, which is probably pretty bad, but I really like coffee. Okay, hopefully my lighting is much better today. It's a little bit dark, but we're gonna work with it. Last episode, I filmed with the backside of my camera instead of the front-facing camera. Backside of my camera, that makes no sense. I filmed with the back-facing camera on my phone. I don't know why that was hard for me. Whereas I usually film with the front-facing camera, and it didn't work out as well as it should have. So back with the front-facing camera, I think this is good enough, and we're just gonna go with it. And yeah, but I couldn't like see it very well, and so I didn't realize that like nothing was in focus, and it just like the lighting, like everything was washed out. It just wasn't great, but that's okay. We are 7 episodes in, so you know, I'm learning as I'm going. So okay, let's move on to whips. So I've been working on one sweater this whole time. I have 3 sweaters on the needles, and I have been working only on one of them because my other 2, I don't know, I've just been focusing on this sweater. Last weekend, I basically did nothing else but like cook and clean and work on this sweater. Like that is what I did for the majority of the weekend. It was wonderful. It was so nice. I enjoyed my weekend so much. And I got so much done as well. So, living in my Fringe Supply field bag is the Fort sweater the Fort Pullover by Jared Flood of Brooklyn Tweed. This is a sweater that I'm knitting for my partner. It is a graduation gift to him, and he chose black yarn. So it's going to be a little bit difficult to see it, but I will try my best to show it off. It's just going to look like a black blob for a moment, but I want to show you the size and like exactly what I did. So this is the entire body. It's knit, the majority of it is knit in the round, so this is both the front and the back. And you can tell these are the sleeves. I think you can see that kind of. I'm gonna do this for a second. Here we go. It's a little bit better. The colors might get a little weird for a second, but hopefully you can see it. So there's the neckline. Here are the shoulders, and then these are the armholes, and there is a back. And then the very bottom is the ribbing. And then another detail that I really like is on the side, it's got some fuzz fluff on it, but on the side it has this 1x1 ribbing all the way to the armhole. So I really like that detail. And I shared this on my Instagram. I've been sharing the progress of this sweater a lot on my Instagram. So if you follow me there, you've probably seen like each step of this sweater, but I love how the shoulders match up. Like it just matches perfectly. There's some short row shaping on the back to get these the shoulders to match. I should not film these on a Sunday evening because I'm not good at talking on Sundays apparently. Yeah, everything lines up so perfectly. It's just like, it's such a nice sweater. I just really like it. I'm really enjoying knitting it. I did modify the armhole a bit. Actually, 2 relatively big modifications. I lengthened the body by about 1 inch per the recipient's request. And then I also shortened the armhole, I would say by about 1/4 of an inch, maybe 1/2 inch, just to make it fit a little bit better. So that's really all I did for the modifications. But yeah, if you look at the the pattern photos, the sweater looks a little bit short on the models, and it looks really nice, but it just wasn't the look I was going for in making this. So lengthened the body by about 1 inch, and yeah, I tried it on. It actually it fits me, but it's super long and it's pretty bulky. But yeah, I'm really liking it so far. So I wanted to share that this little squid progress keeper, you can't really see that. There we go. This little squid progress keeper is where I was at last time I recorded. So I was about there on the body and knit all the way to the armholes, separated, knit the back and the front, and did the neckline shaping and the shoulder shaping and everything. So finished the body. It was really nice to have that done. And then I did not stop there because I immediately cast on a sleeve, and this is where we're at. Yay! So matching the body, there is a 1x1 rib cuff for the sleeve, and it also has I cast on with the tubular cast on, and so it looks really nice. And there's also that detail along the arm with the 1x1 ribbing panel, and yeah, I think I'm almost done. I think I have one more increase to do before I read the next instruction in the pattern, but I'm getting there with the sleeve. I also am going to lengthen the sleeve by excuse me, by maybe 1 inch or 2, depending on what fits, but I will almost definitely have to lengthen the sleeve to fit my boyfriend because he has really long arms. So I will almost definitely be doing that. I just don't know. I haven't measured to see how long I need to lengthen it, but making progress on this. I don't mind sleeves actually. I kind of find them nice, especially after knitting the body in the round. It's just like, it's a lot of stitches to be knitting in the round. And so when you move to this small circumference, it feels like you're making a lot of progress really quickly. But it is also a sleeve, and I'm kind of getting done with it, but I have another one to go, so I'm trying to keep momentum. I really need to, I need to have him try it on, because I tried it on myself, and I'm obviously like, I'm a pretty petite person, so this isn't necessarily an indication of whether or not it'll fit. But I did realize, like after I got all the way up to this point, I realized that it is a little bit like, do you see how it kind of sticks out right after the cuff? And so there's just kind of like this, quite a bit of extra fabric on me. And so we'll see. I'm gonna try it on him. It might also kind of block out a little bit. But I mean, it's not horrible, but like I don't want him to have puffy sleeves. Like I want this to be a nice sweater. And I did, like I took my time with the body to get it kind of exactly what he wanted, and like I made sure that the fit was really nice. And so I definitely, you know, I don't want to like skimp on the sleeves just because sleeves aren't extremely fun to knit. And I mean, this just has to be ready by the fall. So if it takes me all summer to work on this, I've already made really good progress. I've already made more progress than I thought I was going to make by now, and so I'm okay if I have to rip this out. All I have to do on this sweater is knit the sleeves and then knit the neckline. And that's it. I'm done. And then seam the sleeves in. But there's really not that much seaming. There's not that much finishing. Yeah, there's not a lot to this sweater. It's a pretty simple construction. So, let me fix the lighting back again. Okay, that's a little better. I am using Drops yarn in, let's see, what kind of yarn is this? Here it is. This is the Drops Lima yarn in the colorway black. I think that's the only name it has. And yeah, it is, oops, it is 65% wool and 35% alpaca. So it's nice and soft, but it's also, it's pretty substantial wool. And it's actually like, it's pretty nice to work with. It is a DK weight, and the pattern calls for worsted weight, but I actually had to go down a needle size in order to get gauge. So it's kind of a thick DK. And I wouldn't say that I'm a super loose knitter either. So I'm not entirely, I don't know. I think the gauge already was a little bit tight in the pattern, which I really like because it's going to prolong the length of the sweater. And I mean, I'm knitting it in a pretty tight gauge as well. But yeah, working on this sweater, and I'm really enjoying it. Hopefully next time I will at least have a sleeve finished, and then I think I'm going to work on the neckline as soon as I'm done with one sleeve, just to have some, do something a little bit different rather than like just knitting on sleeves. But yeah, I'm really enjoying that, and I know that he is going to love it as well, and he's going to wear it all the time, even if it's not perfect. I'm trying not to like stress out about it too much, because my approach with these types of things is always like, I want it to be perfect. I want to take as much time necessary to perfect it and make sure that every little detail is spot on and it fits the recipient exactly, and like they love it more than any other garment in their closet. But especially as a first, like this is the first sweater that I've ever knit him. It's probably not going to be that, and like it would be really hard for it to be that, right? Like it's probably not going to be perfect. And I just have to kind of let go and know that that's okay, that it doesn't, like, that's the reason that I'm hand making it, is kind of so that it's not perfect, so that it shows the time and the love and the skill that I put into it, but it also shows that I'm human. And my cat is climbing over, there she is. She's just climbing over all of the knitwear I have laying on the table. Now she's just sitting on my blocking mats, as per usual. She loves yarn. She is a yarn enthusiast, that is for sure. Okay, I think that's all I have to share about that sweater. And as I mentioned, that's the only sweater I've been working on the past couple of weeks. I've gotten really good at working with black yarn in low light, I will say that. Moving on. So I will share really quickly my sock whip, living in my little bicycle bag that my sister made me. I have a pair of socks that I'm working on, and I say a pair because I'm currently working on these concurrently, but I will be working on them 2 at a time. So this is the sock this is the actual sample to the sock design I'm working on. And this was the sock that I showed you last week, and I made it about an inch of progress. I basically made no progress on this, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, why am I not working on this? Because it's not that I don't want to work on socks at all. I'll actually show you a sock that I cast on. I was pretty naughty, and I cast on another sock last week, but there was no real reason that I shouldn't be working on these, especially because I really want to publish this pattern, and I love working on patterns. So, why am I not working on this sock? And I think it's because I was working on DPNs, and even though I was on a DPN kick like a few months ago, I really was not into DPNs. Something about it, the process was really slow for me, and I just wasn't enjoying it. It was just slightly awkward again, which is so weird how that happens, because sometimes I love DPNs and I just make so much progress on my socks, and DPNs are just perfect for me for a month or two, and then I'll just fall back on magic loop, and for some reason double pointed needles just are not they just don't work out for me. I don't know what it is. I don't know why I go through phases like that, but I definitely do. So anyway, I started this sock, wasn't working on it, decided what I wanted to do was that now that my favorite ChiaoGoo circular needles were free from my finished socks, that I would cast on another sock, and I would work on the socks 2 at a time, which I've done before, and I didn't absolutely love it, but I just kind of wanted to, I don't know, I just felt like I wanted to, and I really want to finish these socks because I really want to publish this pattern, and so I felt like the way to kind of force myself to work on these is try to do them 2 at a time. So I think I've almost gotten the cuff. I think I went a few rows past. Oops. So I might have to, I'm gonna have to take out a few rows. Oh my word. I don't like knitting 1 by 1 twisted ribs, so I don't know why I was not paying attention and I just kept knitting it. Anyway, these are placeholder needles because as soon as I get to this point in this sock, then I'm going to combine them and work on them 2 at a time, magic loop. So I think I will work on them a lot more once that happens, and they're just a little bit more easy for me to work on, because I think that was my problem, was I was loving DPNs, and then I just hit this point where I just didn't want to knit on DPNs anymore. I just wasn't enjoying it. So yeah, that's the update with that whip. Hopefully next time I will have a lot more progress on those, and hopefully, fingers crossed, I will start the heel by next episode. I really like podcasting because it kind of forces me to make sure not only that I have knitting to show, but I kind of have these arbitrary deadlines in my mind where it's okay, I want to get to this point by the next episode, which means I have clear knitting goals from the next 2 weeks, which feels nice. It feels like I can, I'm setting these deadlines and setting these goals, and if I'm exceeding them or just hitting them, then it feels really good. So I definitely recommend sharing your progress and sharing your projects, because it definitely yeah, it feels good when you actually stick with what you say that you're going to do. I think my lighting changes every time I drink coffee. My mug just messes with the white balance a lot. Okay, so I mentioned I cast on a new sock, which was not good of me. I should not have done that, but it actually was kind of good for me. So I cast this sock on. It's at the bottom of my bag. I cast this sock on last Friday, I think, when I just wasn't feeling great mentally. I just wasn't feeling great. And I really wanted a relaxing project. I'd been working on the sweater a lot, and I was counting and keeping track of things. And so I got in the bath, took a nice, hot, therapeutic bath, and I wanted to knit while I was in the bath, which I've never done before. I turned on the New Yorker Fiction podcast, which is a podcast where authors read other authors' short stories. And that is my one of my majors in college is English writing. So I like fiction a lot. And so I turned on an episode of that, and I just cast on this sock. It was just a really simple cast on, very mindless, was not concerned about it at all, about messing up. If I made a mistake, I was just going to roll with it. And I just knit this while I was in the bath, and it was really, really relaxing. And it just made me feel so much better. So even though I cast on a sock when I have another sock whip, and I have many whips on the needles at the moment, it was just kind of a reminder that knitting for me is a tool that I use to help me in a lot of different ways mentally. It's very relaxing for me a lot of the time. It's a creative outlet for me. It helps me set goals and reach my goals, and really overall it just makes me feel better as a person, and that's why I knit. And so even though I cast this sock on when I technically shouldn't have, whatever, it was exactly what I needed in the moment. And even if I rip this sock out, even if I decide I don't want to work on this sock anymore, I do not regret the hour that I spent on this sock, because it was just such a relaxing, nice moment that it was well worth it, even if I don't finish this sock. So I just wanted to share that, because sometimes I think that we have a lot of, we have a lot of goals for ourselves as knitters, and we have a lot of kind of arbitrary rules that we set on ourselves, which a lot of the time are reasonable and are good. But sometimes it's nice to really just be super relaxed with your knitting and use your knitting for exactly what you need it to be in the moment, without trying to, plan for the future and trying to make sure that this is exactly what you should be knitting on in order to make the progress that you need to make. Sometimes you just need to be knitting on something super relaxing without any guilt or regret, and that's what this project was for me. So I will share the details about this, but I might take it out, just so you know. This is a Drops Fobble yarn, and now I think it's right back here. Here it is. So this is a yarn that I'm using, Drops Fobble Long Print. This was just some yarn that I picked up when I was placing an order for Drops yarn, and I was just picking up some sock yarn. And I'm not in love with this colorway, but it also it kind of reminds me of the ocean, and I think it's pretty. It's just not me, but that's kind of why I liked it. So okay, I'm not seeing a color name, but the color number is 918. If you are interested in this yarn. And this is, I think, a 60 stitch sock. It might be 64 stitch sock with 2x2 rib. And then instead of plain stockinette, I opted for a 6x2 rib, so 6 knit stitches and 2 purl stitches, because I wanted a really tight fitting sock. I really like the feel of that, and I've never knit a sock like that before, so I wanted to try it. These are my Addy Turbos, I think. I think that's what these needles are, which are pretty expensive, and I don't like them very much, actually. I much prefer Xiaogu's. But these were the only needles I had free, and so I cast them on. So yeah, anyway, I don't know if I'll continue working on this right now because I just have a lot of other things that I would rather be knitting on at the moment. But when I cast that on, that was perfect. That was exactly what I needed to be knitting on. Okay, that was a very long way of saying what I wanted to say, but hopefully it was still important. Okay, and then I cast on another thing. I've been casting on so many things lately, and loving it, like actually enjoying it and not being stressed out about it, because usually I'm overwhelmed when I cast on a bunch of things. But the reason this is not overwhelming is because it is meant to be a long-term project, because it is a blanket. So I cast on the Cozy Memories blanket. And this is a blanket, or a project really, that I have been wanting to knit for probably about a year, ever since I discovered knitting podcasts and discovered the Cozy Memories blanket. What are you doing? You're so silly. Come here. Come here. Come here. She knows what I'm gonna do. Nope. I was gonna try to pick her up, but she hates being picked up. Yeah. Okay, back to the blanket. Cozy Memories blanket, which I think is a term that Molly from the Homespun House used, because I don't think that there's an actual pattern called Cozy Memories, but there's a couple of mitered square patterns available on Ravelry for free. I know Kimber Ray has one. I used a different one, which I will link in the show notes, because I don't remember exactly what it's called, but it is not the Kimber Ray pattern. Anyway, doesn't really matter. They're, it's all mitered squares. It's just a matter of knitting them whatever way feels most comfortable for you. But the reason I knit this is because I do have scraps of fingering weight yarn, and as I keep knitting more socks and sweaters and whatever else, I definitely accumulate scraps, and so I think this is a great way to use them. And even if this doesn't turn into a massive blanket, even if it's just a small like blanket to cover my bedspread, or it turns into a baby blanket, or it's just like a placemat for my coffee table, I really don't have that many expectations for this blanket, and I think that's why I like it, because I have a lot of expectations for my sweaters and for other things I'm knitting, for my designs, and with this I really just don't, and I really enjoy the fact that this is an easy project. I don't have to think about it that much, and I'm trying not to think about it that much. Like, I'm really trying with this project to just let it happen and enjoy every square, and not get too analytical about it, but also to play with color, because as you can tell from if you have been watching my podcast, I don't wear a lot of color, and I love neutrals, and they don't bore me, but every now and then I'm just like, I really want to knit with some color, and so I think this is a great way for me to do that without having to knit like garments that I'm not going to wear. So with that preface, I will show you the little bit of knitting that I have. I cast this on like last week, I think, and so I really just have typical style. I drop it. This is all I have. But if you look at the back side, all of the ends have been woven in except for this square. So I'm doing pretty good. I think about, probably every like 5, 6, 7, 8 squares, I'll take a break and just weave in some ends because I don't want to let the ends pile up because I know I will dread every second of weaving them in if I leave them to the very end. And I like to have widths that are nice to look at as you're working on them. So I definitely will be weaving in the ends as I go. But here we are. You can tell there is not much color because these are genuine scraps. These are scraps that yarn that I've used in projects, had just a few grams left over, didn't know what to do with yarn, started making a blanket. And I definitely wanted to get more colorful than this, but I don't have many colorful scraps at the moment. And so I thought about, I was looking on Ravelry at different scraps that people have for sale, and I just don't, I haven't been knitting for a super long time, like seriously knitting for a long time. I don't have a ton of yarn. Like really, you can see back here, this is the majority of my yarn, and almost all of it is currently being used on a project. So I really don't buy that much yarn. And I only buy yarn for specific projects for the most part. Occasionally I'll buy like a spare skein of yarn of like sock yarn or something, but I don't have a ton of yarn. So again, don't have many expectations for this. My only expectation is that it will help me use up those tiny little scrap yarn. If it's my own scraps of yarn that I have used in projects, or if it's someone else's scraps, they're just like, I don't want these. They're just taking up space and they're just like, going to waste. That this blanket will use them up and reduce waste. So that's my first rule, use up scraps. My second rule, I say rule, but like guideline, number 2 is that it will make me happy. And thus far, it has made me very happy. These, the little squares have been so nice and rewarding to work on. Every little square is just like, it takes the perfect amount of time. I think it takes me about half an hour to knit one. I haven't exactly timed myself, but it's about that length. It's just really satisfying to finish a square, and to use different colors too, because with a lot of projects you're only working with one or maybe a few colors, and it's really nice to just kind of expand and do different things, and it is making me really happy. But the main reason I cast this on was because this is so easy. This is like the easiest project. And at night after work, when I get home and I've made dinner and done whatever else I needed to do that night, I'm often too tired to knit. And even stuff like knitting on a sleeve, which is pretty easy, but you just have to, count rows and keep track of increases and stuff like that. It's like that little bit of mental effort a lot of the time is too much for me at night after a long day. And so this is really so easy. It's like the perfect amount of mindfulness, or that's not the right word, but the perfect amount of like mental effort to knit on these, and it just is making me really happy. So I really don't have any other scraps. I have these little minis that I made that I need to wind back into skeins. This was from my Ode to Spring sample shawl that I knit, and I love these colors. So I'll be putting these in, and then I also have some of that Knit Picks yarn left over for my socks. So I have a couple of scraps that I'm still going to put in here, but I don't have that many scraps yet. So this will definitely be a long-term knit. I'm not expecting to finish it anytime soon. But yeah, here are my squares so far. So I have some Knit Picks. This is Premier. This is Drops. This is Premier as well. Knit Picks, Premier. And then this is Patton's Croy sock yarn. So yeah, this is all commercial yarn so far, but I definitely will be putting some more hand-dyed yarn It'll just be like, I'll slowly build up my scrap jar, and I'll have a lot more to put in here, but this is it so far. I'm really liking it. And I also am realizing like how much gray and blue I knit, and like I wear a lot of blue as well. Yeah, that's, you know, it's my color. All right, so those are all of my whips. That is what I've been working on. I also wanted to mention, because yesterday I spent the majority of my knitting time working on a new design. When inspiration strikes, I just let it flow. I just let it happen. Because apparently I would much rather cast on a new design than finish any of my 3 other designs I'm working on. The Ode to Spring shawl is so close to being done. I just need to check one thing. Just need to check, double check the math just to make sure that everything is correct. And read through it again, take the photos, and then it's ready to be published. I'm so close. I just need to like find the time to take the photos before it gets like excruciatingly hot, because I don't want to be wearing this huge shawl when it's like super hot outside. But that is almost done. And my other shawl, I just need to take photos again. It's always the hardest part for me. It's just really hard when you don't have like a team to help you and you're one person show. And then work on the pattern layout for that design as well. So slowly working on them. I'm trying really hard. I've been working on them during the week when I, you know, that's kind of been taking up a lot of the time that I could have spent knitting, but I just love pattern designing so much. So working on those. But yeah, cast on a new design. I actually haven't cast on yet. I spent the majority of yesterday swatching and figuring out the design and making sure that I had a pretty solid idea before I cast on. But I just wanted to share the yarn I'm using. This is a Malabrigo yarn. It's a worsted weight yarn. And it is so pretty. It is a gorgeous color. So, so pretty. I love it so much. I can't remember the colorway, but I will look it up and put it in the show notes. And I'll also put the kind of yarn it is. But yeah, it's just this like, I mean, it's a mauve with, but it's very tonal, and yeah, it's just gorgeous. And it was pretty online, but when I got it, when I actually was looking at it in person, it was just like way more beautiful than it was online. So that's always nice when that happens. But I also will share my swatch. Here it is for that, just to kind of give you a little sneak peek. So here's my little swatch for that. Yep, so that's the kind of design I'm working on. I'm not going to share too much more just in case it doesn't work out. But I would like to share a bit more about my design process. And so I think I might film like some sort of vlog style video on me working on this, because it's kind of the first design that I've thought of doing that since like the very beginning of working on it. So I don't know if you would be interested in that. Let me know if you are. If you are interested, please leave a comment, like this video, post on Ravelry, whatever, to show your support, because that would take quite a bit more time and effort from my part, but I would love to do that if people are interested. So that is all I will talk about today. Thank you so much for tuning in. It has been lovely to talk with you as always. Yeah, I will see you in 2 weeks.